Hey, Jared Duckett here, back with Caleb Gussner, and we're going to dive in and really talk about the dashboard, right? And what you need to be. First off, do you have a dashboard? Are you looking at your dashboard? And then if those are in place, what needs to be on your dashboard? But we talk to clients all the time, Caleb, about what they should be looking at on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And a lot of people, it's fair to say a lot of people aren't looking at a lot. And I understand that because they're just busy, right? And they're busy doing clinical work, trying to run a practice. And that's the last thing I have to do, man, is look at a dashboard. But the power of looking at the dashboard is everything, right? It tells you where you're going. Are you off track, on track? Do you need to course correct, et cetera? So Caleb, let's dive in. What needs to be on that dashboard? What do they need to be looking at?
Yeah, so when I'm thinking through a dashboard, right, think through the dashboard in a car.
Yeah.
Dashboard in a car indicates where we're going, how fast we're going, how much gas we have, transmission.
Check engine soon light, yeah.
Yeah, all the insights into how our car is operating, right? So when we're thinking through a dashboard that I'm looking at as a practice owner, I'm thinking through 7 key metrics, right? Production, collections, overhead, net operating income, my tax liability. That's a big one that we need to be looking at frequently. Cash reserves, and if we have multiple locations, contribution margin, right? Those are the 7. We'll unpack those here in just a second. How I look at those first 4, I kind of group those first 4 together when you think through, how are we operating, right? I should be able to pull this dashboard up weekly, monthly, over the last quarter, and how are we operating, looking at the 3 key areas of a practice that when I'm consulting with clients, what I'm looking at, right? So first one being production. Do we have a production problem, or is production on track, right? Are we producing enough clinical dentistry to produce enough cash flow to operate the business, right? We gotta have production here. Our hygienists need to be producing effectively. Doctors need to be producing effectively. If you're the sole provider in there, it's on you. If you have associates in there, you need to be monitoring how those associates are performing, because those guys cost you money, right? Are they costing you money, or are they making you money? There's a very big distinction there of having an associate in the practice, right? So production, want to be able to see a couple quick metrics on that. Production per operatory, are we utilizing the space effectively? Doctor production per day, are my doctors producing what they need to? And hygiene production per hour, are the hygienists producing hourly, right? They're an hourly rate. Are they producing enough to cover themselves and what we're paying them? Hygienists are expensive, right? Hygienists are super crucial. We need to make sure they're producing effectively to cover their part of the overhead. On the collection side, right, I say this all the time, it's a moral outrage in dentistry not to collect what you produce. Is money rolling in based off of what we're producing? What do I mean by that? Are we collecting 98% every month, or at least over a rolling 90-day period? We understand there's some ebb and flow in terms of insurance deposits may or may not hit, timing differences, we get all that. But over a rolling 90-day period, are we collecting 98%, right? And then in addition to that, is what's being posted in the PM being posted to the bank?
Crucial
right?
one here. Listen to this. Crucial
right?
one.
It's great if we see that we're collecting 98%. Let's just say we did $1 million, we collected $999,000, right? So we collected 99%. But the bank is showing $900,000. Like, where'd that $99,000 go? Like, what's going on here? So not only are we producing, or are we collecting what we produce, but is what we say we're collecting in the PM hitting the bank, right? So 2 metrics there. Overhead, this is one that we geek out on in the finance seat of, do we have any leaky buckets? Are we splurging somewhere? Do we have some fat that we can trim off the practice, right? So thinking through our key metrics here, is there any areas that we need to be evaluating to cut back, or are there areas that we're underfunded, right? Are we underfunded from a marketing perspective, meaning, hey, we don't have enough new patients coming in the door, so that production bucket is low? Well, we come over to our overhead bucket and say, oh, hey, we're actually running really lean overhead and we're only spending 1.5% on marketing. Maybe we need to try and pouring some money into that. It goes both ways, right, Jared? It's not just always cutting back. There are times where we need to reinvest back in the business. And then really the key metric on here, right, that we always harp on, and really the most important of these 3 as a business owner, is NOI, net operating income. Is the practice profitable? That's the first metric that I'm going to look at of those 4, because the first 3 are my diagnose. Where do I need to go evaluate? What do I need to fix? Net operating income. If you show me a practice, this first metric I'm going to look at. Are we profitable? Are we producing cash flow? If not, okay, let's go look at those 3 buckets I just talked about and figure out what's broken. If that's in a good spot, right, we're running 20 to 25% NOI, okay, we've got some cushion here, we've got some runway. It's about optimization in those first 3 buckets, not panic mode, not, hey, we got to get this turned around super quick. But if we're not looking at those 4 key metrics to start every month, every week, every quarter, we're in a position of really operating off of our gut. And what most clients probably are doing, and I know you're getting ready to get into this on the liquidity standpoint, from a liquidity standpoint, is, do I have money in the bank account? Right? Is my bank account going up or going down? It works for a while, but you're missing out on so much opportunity by not evaluating these metrics. You're running blind.
Yeah, 100%. And that's probably going back to, do you have a dashboard? Are you looking at it? What's on it? Most people, to a degree, are looking at their bank account as their dashboard. And the issue with that is all it tells you is if there's money in the bank, is it going up or down? What it does not tell you is what you need to fix in order to make that balance go up, right? It doesn't help diagnose. But, I mean, those first 4, and I make this joke all the time, but you have to know those 4. Like, if you're a practice owner out there today, and don't say bad words to me when I say this, but if you're a practice owner out there today and you can't answer these 4 questions, such as, what is your production per op? What is your collections percentage? What is your overhead percentage? And what's your NOI percentage? Go figure those out. Go ask your CPA what those are. Go ask your accountant, internal controller, et cetera, because those are key numbers you need to know. You don't have to be the one putting them together, but you, as the owner, need to know what they are, right? So those are the first 4. We'll go into the last 3 here. We talk about this all the time, right? Is your tax liability, I think we've done a separate video all around this, but when I say tax liability, you need to know at all times, to a degree, roughly how much you have to pay in, or have paid in, or will have to pay in at year end. If not, you're going to get caught off surprise. And managing off that bank account, you might think you're killing it till December, and then that balance has to go down because you get that call, right? You have to know that stuff ahead of time. Cash, we talk about this all the time. Go back to the dashboard analogy. The cash basically is your fuel, right? Cash allows you to get to the next spot. We recommend, and again, don't say bad words when I say this, we recommend 10% of annual collections, give or take, is what you need to keep in that bank account.
Which, when you hear that and you're like, don't shoot me, guarantee you run the numbers. I tell clients all the time, when you run the numbers on 10% of annualized collections, probably 6 weeks of cash burn. Yeah. It's 3 payrolls.
Yeah. So it's not
3 payroll periods worth.
That's right.
It's nothing crazy. Yeah, banks love it. Lendability is great. To me, not a hot button take. Just my perspective.
I agree 100%. And there's no downside to keeping that money in the bank. And other than to get that reserve balance up, there is a little downside. Can't take as much out personally. I get that, but it's still yours. It's just in the business. But example, right? $1 million practice. Easy math. What do we mean? 10% of annual collections, $100,000 in that bank account. You will sleep better at night if you have it in there. Guarantee that needs to be on your dashboard.
Yeah. Right? And it doesn't have to sit, right? We're not saying it's got to sit in an operating account, not doing anything.
Yeah.
Keep $40,000 in your operating account. That's what your, 2-week spend is, and keep 60 in a high yield savings or a money market, or a fintech market, Mercury, Brex, these companies that we work with all the time, where you can go earn 4.5%, 5% in a, environment where we're seeing interest rates as high as they are. You can make some money off of it. It's not just sitting there saying you can't do anything with it, but we need to have it liquid and available to us if needed.
Yeah. And another key point on this too, like I had this conversation with a client the other day, that $1 million example. Okay. We get $100,000 in there. Guess what? You guys are growing, right? So you go from $1 million to $2 million. That number has to adjust. Now we need $200,000. And the call from the client's like, well, I have $100,000 in there, but it feels tight. Well, yeah, it feels tight because now you're $2 million and you've got a whole lot more expenses. And so it's just a lot more cash burn. So you have to adjust as you grow on that 10% deal. Last one too is, and this applies specifically to group practice owners in my opinion, but is contribution margin. We see it all the time with group practice owners. They've got a really good practice. We call it the flagship dilemma. Bill Ladd, says this all the time. The flagship dilemma, meaning you've got a really good practice, and you're like, hey, I can go replicate this. Nothing wrong with replicating it. Nothing wrong with getting additional practices. But what happens a lot of times is you try to replicate it, and you get practice number 2 and maybe 3 shortly after, and you're not tracking things by, I say, class or by practice, and practice 2 and 3 is bleeding a little bit, has some empty holes in the bucket, and it's pulling from that flagship. That flagship is propping those up, but you really can't see it. But the way to see it is to individually class those out and look at the contribution margin, meaning what is the overall contribution that those practices are giving to the whole thing as a general. And 3 practice example here, I'll just use that same thing. Legacy practice, flagship, it's contributing 95% of the overall and the other 2, maybe one's losing money and the other one's just giving a couple points. If you don't know that and you're not looking at that on a monthly basis, you're not able to make good decisions to change that. So that's our take. 7 items. Anything else to add there, Caleb? What needs to be on that dashboard?
No, I think this dashboard is a great starting point into diagnosing what leaky buckets we have in the practice or in the portfolio. One quick thing to add on that contribution margin, I think oftentimes when we get into consolidated financial reports, when you have 3 locations, right, we look at it consolidated. Sometimes we see, oh, hey, we're running 18% consolidated. Like, we're doing great. Well, you got one location, to your point, that's 95% of the contribution. What does that actually mean? It means that practice is running 27%. And you got, practice B that might be running 7%. You got practice C that's running negative 14%. Okay. And I know that math doesn't math. I'm not sitting here trying to make it math out. I'm just saying the point is you have one location covering the sins of another. When you look at that 18%, that, oh, we're good, right? We're 18% overall. We're just below 20. We're okay. Well, if you have this dashboard and you look at your NOI, what's the first thing we're going to look at? What's the first practice I'm going to look at diagnosing? Remember, I said earlier, NOI is the most important KPI on this. Well, if we have a practice running negative 14% NOI, that's the first practice I'm giving attention to. And what buckets do we need to fix to get that thing up to where every practice is running 27%?
Yeah, 100%. That makes sense, 100%. But basically, if you're listening out there and you don't go through the 3 things I said, you don't have a dashboard, you're not looking at a dashboard, you don't know what needs to be on the dashboard, figure that out. Go to your CPA, say, hey, what do I need to do here? Put something in front of your face. And I will say one thing, and I think, Caleb, I told you this story one time too. Everybody has a dashboard. And in regard to the car analogy, a lot of times you're looking at a dashboard and there's a check engine soon light on and you're ignoring it. As a 16-year-old kid, I ignored my check engine soon light on until my truck stopped running. And I will never forget my father's voice when he said, what is this light? I'm like, Dad, that's a check engine soon light on. He's like, why didn't you say anything? Dad, it's always been there. Don't let the check engine soon light always be on your dashboard. It's telling you something for a reason, right? It's flashing. Do something about it. So have that dashboard in place, monitor it, make sure the right stuff on there. Because I guarantee it, Caleb, I say this 10 times a day, what gets measured gets managed. So if you're looking at your dashboard, you're going to get better. And that's what we're all about. So get that dashboard in place.